Have you ever witnessed hope being reborn through someone's silent act of kindness? On a freezing Budapest night in 2025, on the set of From the World of John Wick Ballerina, Ana de Armas witnessed such a miracle. On a snowy street, fighting the flames with a fire hose, her arms shaking, the cold freezing her bones. At that moment, Keanu Reeves, the legendary John Wick, stepped out of the shadows, saying in a calm voice, "You can do this. The power is in you." Anna opened up in a Collider interview. "Keanu is a legend. It's a dream to work with him. We met on Knock Knock. We made a beautiful friendship. What if I told you that Keanu was not just a friend on this set, but a silent hero who changed a family's life?" In the stone streets of Budapest, amid the smell of gunpowder and coffee vapor, a child's smile ignited a miracle. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in comfortably, because I will tell you how one night ignited hope, how a set turned into a family and left a mark on Ballerina's flaming soul. Are you ready to be caught in the flame of this story? Stay tuned, because this journey will warm your heart and show you how ordinary people create miracles. Chapter 1. The Cold of Budapest. It was February 2025. Budapest was in the grip of winter. The stone streets were covered in a thin layer of ice, the wind rising from the banks of the Danube River, licking faces like a sharp knife. On the edge of the city, in the shadow of an abandoned factory, From the World of John Wick, Ballerina set was an island of life. The sharp lights of the floodlights pierced the darkness. The smell of gunpowder mingled with the fog of smoke machines and the steam of morning coffee. Cables snaked across the floor, crushed under the boots of the technicians, and directives from megaphones set the chaos to a rhythm. The set was like a battlefield controlled, but ready to explode at any moment. Ana de Armas, as Eve Macaro, was preparing for one of the most difficult scenes in the movie. A breathtaking fight on a snowy street in Roma, where she fights with a fire hose against the fire of a flamethrower. 4 months of training, morning strength training at the 8711 facility in Los Angeles, 5 hours of fight choreography, pistol drills at the shooting range had turned his body into a weapon. But her mind was tired, the cold numbing her fingers, the weight of the hose crushing her shoulders. As Anna warmed up before the scene, snowflakes clung to her black jacket. "This is killing me," she muttered to herself, her breath dancing in the air as steam. Around her, the set crew moved like a beehive, cameraman adjusting lenses, lighting men aligning projectors, an assistant running around with a thermos of coffee. Keanu Reeves was on set as John Wick, for the brief but unforgettable scenes where he and Eve crossed paths. These scenes were the essence of Ballerina. Two broken souls, Eve and Wick, colliding for a moment in the shadows of Roma, seeking redemption. Keanu stood in the shadows in his black suit, a fixed point in the chaos of the set. He noticed Anna's trembling hands, her arms straining as she tried to grasp the fire hose. Keanu approached quietly, a bottle of water in his hand. "You can do this, your strength is in you," he said, his voice calm but determined. Years of martial arts experience, lending weight to his words. Anna saw the confidence in Keanu's eyes and took a deep breath. She straightened her posture, gripped the hose tightly, and pulled the stage in one breath. The water from the fire hose drowned the flames, and the set echoed with applause. As Anna set the hose down, she smiled at Keanu. "Thank you," she said, out of breath. Keanu shrugged. "You already knew," he said, winking. When the camera stopped, Anna's face lit up. In an interview with Collider, she spoke candidly. "Keanu is a legend. It's a dream to work with him. We met at Knock Knock when I was 26. We built a beautiful friendship." This gratitude extended to the set crew. "Keanu is a quiet giant," a lighting man whispered to a colleague sipping his coffee. "He's beyond Wick," said a customer, smiling as he dipped his needles into the fabric. But as the night deepened, another story sprouted in the shadows of the set, a spark that echoed Ballerina's spirit of revenge and redemption. During a shooting break, Keanu was sitting on a crate, a cup of black coffee in his hand, his eyes scanning the rhythm of the set, the dance of the cables, the hustle and bustle of the cameramen. On his warm-ups, everything was like part of a symphony. But Keanu's attention shifted. Tomas, a young cable technician, Tomas was a local laborer, quiet but hard-working. That night, his face was pale, his hands trembling. He stumbled while picking up cables, knocking over a reel. No one noticed in the noise of the set, but Keanu didn't miss it. He put down his cup and approached slowly. "You okay, buddy?" he asked, his voice soft but piercing, as if he was looking deep into his heart. Tomas was silent for a moment, his eyes fixed on the ground. Then, his voice cracked. "My daughter, Esther, is in the hospital. Leukemia. I can't pay for her treatment." Tears rolled down his cheeks, his hands balled into fists. The desperation overpowered even the smell of gunpowder on the set. Keanu's eyes widened for a moment. His mind flashed back to Kim's days battling leukemia in the hospital room, under the fluorescent lights. Kim's weak but determined voice. "Save others, Keanu." Even in those difficult days, Kim had smiled and taught Keanu about hope. Keanu pushed the memory out of his mind and turned to Thomas. "We'll find a way," he said. His voice calm but determined, his words flashed like a flame in the cold air. Anna, watching from afar, noticed Keanu's silent gesture. She approached Tomas, put her hand on his shoulder. "Keanu's word is his word," she said, smiling with the same sincerity as in the Collider interview. At that moment, the icy air of the set warmed for a moment. Keanu's mind was full of questions. How was he going to help Esther? How would Kim's promise ignite hope on this set? The chaos of the set seemed to stop for a moment. Amidst the smell of gunpowder, coffee vapor and snowflakes, a miracle was sprouting. Did you feel that spark of hope? Dive into the heart of the story, because Esther's smile is just the beginning. Chapter 2. Shadows of the Set. Budapest's night chill wrapped the set like a blanket. The floodlights cut through the darkness like knives, the wind vibrated the cables. A metal song played. The set breathed like a living organism. The technicians' boots crunching on the snow-covered floor, the fog of smoke machines floating in the air. Anna was preparing for the next scene, an iconic ballerina fight moment in which Eve takes down her enemy with an ice skate. The scene reflected Eve's agility and intelligence. An everyday object transformed into a deadly weapon. But filming was difficult. Anna's shoulder ached from hours of rehearsals, the cold numbing her hands. Backstage, trying to warm herself by a heater, an assistant handed her a hot cup of tea. "Hang in there, Anna," he said, smiling. "The set will either kill me or make me a legend," Anna joked, but determination shone in her eyes. Keanu stood in a corner, watching Anna warm up, a bottle of water in his hand. "This scene has your spirit, Anna," he said, encouragement in his voice. "Just like Eve, you don't give up." Anna smiled. "Everything is easy with you," she said. Keanu's calmness momentarily calmed the chaos of the set. As Anna prepared for the ice skating scene, the set crew moved around her like an army. A lighting man, Z-Solt, was thinking about his own story as he aligned the floodlights. He too was a father with 2 young daughters. Z-Solt noticed Keanu's calm posture. "This guy is on another level," he murmured to his colleague. The set was not just a workplace, but a place where stories intersected. 2 young daughters. Solt noticed Keanu's calm posture. "This guy is on another level," he murmured to his colleague. The set was not just a workplace, but a place where stories intersected. Backstage, Tomas sat alone on an old bench, his phone in his hand. Messages from the hospital filled the screen. Esther was in critical condition, a new chemotherapy was recommended, but the cost would exceed Tomas's salary for a year. He buried his head in his hands, the tears flowing down his fingers, the noise of the set drowning out his silent storm. Tomas remembered his last visit to Esther's hospital room, where the little girl had hidden a red toy car under her pillow in her bed. "Daddy, can this car fly?" she had asked, her eyes shining. "Of course, with your dreams, everything is possible," Tomas had said, but his own hope was fading. Keanu saw Tomas as he entered the backstage area and sat quietly next to him, as if they had known each other for years. "What is Esther like?" he asked, his voice calm, with the curiosity of a friend. Tomas was surprised. "Red cars," he said, smiling for a moment. Esther's joy warmed his heart. "We'll buy him one," Keanu said, winking that little word stopped Thomas's tears for a moment. Keanu's mind flashed back to a moment when Kim was battling leukemia. In the hospital room, a red pen next to Kim's pillow. "Save others," she said. Keanu saw that hope in Esther. Keanu stood up, approached the set manager, spoke in a low voice. "Let's start a fundraiser," he said, "for Esther's treatment. But don't let anyone know it's from me." "Are you serious?" the manager asked, eyebrows raised. Keanu nodded. "Let's move fast." That night, with the silent support of the set crew and Keanu, a fundraising campaign was launched. Whispers spread throughout the set. Sult donated part of his own salary. "For Esther," he said, his eyes filling up. A customer, Marta, found an old toy car. "Let's take it to Esther," she said, smiling. In a few days, enough money was raised in Thomas's account for Esther's treatment. Thomas froze when he saw the message. His phone fell from his hand. Tears wet his cheeks. Anna saw Thomas backstage. "What happened?" she asked, worried. "Someone paid for Esther," Thomas said, his voice trembling. Anna looked at Keanu, a quiet man in a black t-shirt, drinking coffee in a corner. "You started this, didn't you?" she whispered. Keanu shrugged. "Esther's the one who matters," said, peace shining in his eyes. The set was becoming a family. Among the smell of gunpowder, coffee vapor, and snowflakes, hope was blossoming. Are you ready to touch the warmth of this family? Go deeper into the story, because the spirit of this set will envelop you too. Raised in Thomas's account for Esther's treatment. Chapter 3, Dance of Flames. It was dawn in Budapest. The gray sky was filled with fine snowflakes, softly hitting the metal roof of the embankment. The sky was bathed in a pale light, the rusty walls of the factory covered in snow. Anna was preparing for one of the most chaotic scenes in the movie. A desperate but powerful moment in Ballerina, when Eve is locked in a room and overpowers her enemies. The scene showcased Eve's ability to turn everything around her into a weapon, like when she fights flames with a fire hose. But on set, the hours of filming had exhausted Anna. The cold numbed her fingers and the pain in her shoulder was unbearable. Backstage, wrapped in a blanket, she stood by a heater. Marta, the costumer, handed Anna a pair of gloves. "Take these, your hands won't freeze," she said, smiling. "This set is a family," Anna said, gratefully, the warmth from her interview in the Collier reflected in her voice. Keanu saw Anna shivering, took off his own jacket, and put it on her shoulders. "The cold can't stop you," he said, smiling. There was warmth in his voice. "With you, anything is possible," Anna replied, her breath vaporizing and dancing in the air. The set crew was like a shield around Anna. As Sult aligned the projectors, he thought of his own daughters, their smiles connected to Esther's hope. Set was not just a workplace, but a place where stories intersected. Each technician, each assistant carried their own burden. But Esther's story united them. Thomas was a different person when he arrived on set that morning. A glimmer of hope in his eyes. The news from the hospital was good. Esther's treatment had begun. His blood counts were stable. Anna saw Thomas backstage. "How is Esther?" she asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. "He's recovering. Someone paid for it," Thomas said, his eyes welling up. His words momentarily silencing the noise of the set. Anna turned to Keanu. "You started this, didn't you?" she whispered, smiling. "It's that smile that matters," Keanu said, looking down at his coffee. His humility warmed Anna's heart. Keanu's gesture spread like a wave across the set. "Gather strength for Esther," Marta said, handing Thomas a sandwich. "I'll pray for him," Zolt murmured, wiping his contacts. The set had become a family. The tribal spirit of Ballerina's Ruska Roma was being realized here. As Keanu continued rehearsing with Anna scene where Eve confronts the flamethrower with a fire hose, he paused. "This scene is incredible," Anna said, smiling. "Just like in life, you work miracles with ordinary things," Keanu said, his words echoing the help he had given Thomas. "Miracles happen on this set because of you," Anna said. When filming was over, Anna hugged Keanu. "It's a dream to work with you," she said, her eyes shining. Her words from the interview had come to life on set. Thomas approached Keanu. "Thank you for Esther," he said, his voice shaky. A coffee cup in his hands, full of gratitude. "Let's get him that red car," Keanu said, smiling. The set crew gathered backstage that night. Marta showed the toy box she had prepared for Esther. Zalt added a red balloon. The set was not just a place to shoot a movie, but a place where hope blossomed. Did you feel the warmth of this miracle? Continue with Esther's story, because every moment gives birth to a new hope. And if the spirit of this set has enveloped you, check out our other stories on the channel. More inspiration is waiting for you. Chapter 4: The Silence of the Hospital. The morning in Budapest was a pale gray. The corridors of the hospital were cold and silent with fluorescent lights. Tamas ran to Esther's room, his heart full of hope and fear. He opened the door softly. The room was small but like a warm nest. Blue curtains filtered the morning light. On a table were the cars Esther had drawn with a red pencil, fast, bright, full of dreams. Esther was lying in his bed, his cheeks pale but his eyes lively, a red toy car in his hand, which he moved around on his pillow. "Daddy, look, it's fast," he said, his voice weak but cheerful. Tamas could not hold back his tears. Esther's smile melted all his fears for a moment. "The treatment is going well." The doctor approached, adjusting his glasses. "A few months are critical, but there is hope." The fundraiser had saved Esther's life. Tamas thought of Keanu's quiet support from the set. The calm man was a miracle. Tamas sat on Esther's bed, holding the little girl's hand. "I'll buy you a new car," he said, smiling. "Make it red," Esther said, laughing. The joy filled the room like spring. Tamas remembered the nights he spent in the hospital room, how he held on to hope when Esther's fever broke, between the beeps of the monitors. Those nights had changed Tamas. Esther's smile had become his strength. Now the donation from the set gave him a chance to keep that smile. On set, filming was in full swing. Anna had just finished the scene where Eve and Wick confront Eve on a snowy Riska-Roma street. She was chatting with Keanu in a corner, coffee cups in hand. "Rehearsing with Keanu is incredible," Anna said in the interview. "Tamas's story shook me," she said now, looking at Keanu, her voice soft. "You created a family here. All it takes is a spark," Keanu said. His words had the flaming aesthetic of Ballerina. The set crew was supporting Tamas. Marta said, "Let's take toys to Esther," pointing to a box of cars. "What Keanu started, it's incredible," Salt murmured, carrying the floodlights. The tribal spirit of Ballerina had become a real bond on the set. His words had the flaming aesthetic of Ballerina. The set crew was supporting Tamas. Marta said, "Let's take toys to Esther," pointing to a box of cars. "What Keanu started, it's incredible," Salt murmured, carrying the floodlights. The tribal spirit of Ballerina had become a real bond on the set. Keanu slumped in a chair between takes, holding a photo of Kim, a worn frame he'd had for years. The days of Kim's battle with leukemia flashed through his mind. That moment in the hospital room when Kim said, "Save others," smiling. "Esther is alive," Keanu whispered, looking at the photo, Kim's promise becoming reality through Tamas's hope. Anna saw Keanu, sat down next to him. "You're a hero," she said, putting her hand on his shoulder. Keanu nodded. "I just did it," he said. His humility permeated every corner of the set. That evening, a message arrived from Tamas. "Esther asks about you, calls you a hero." Keanu smiled. "Let's get him that car," he said. The promise strengthened like a bond. The set crew gathered backstage that night. Marta showed the toy box she had prepared for Esther. Zalt said, "Let's write a letter," inspired by his own daughters. The set had become a nest of hope between the smell of gunpowder, coffee vapor, and snowflakes. A family was being born. Do you feel the strength of this bond? Listen to Esther's smile, because this story will burn in your heart like a flame. Chapter 5: Red Car and Snow. Weeks passed. The Ballerina shoot was completed. Budapest was silent, shrouded in snow. The light from the street lamps refracted in the snowflakes. Tamas's house was in a quiet neighborhood of the city. A small apartment, but filled with Esther's laughter. Snowflakes accumulated on the windows, and a stove crackled inside. Tamas was sitting in the living room with Esther. The little girl was drawing red cars on papers spread on the floor. "Daddy, can this car fly?" she asked, her eyes shining. "With your dreams, everything is possible." Tomas said, smiling. Esther's joy was everything to him. One morning, there was a knock at the door. Keanu was standing there, with a bright red toy Mustang detailed like a real car. Esther jumped out of his room. "Is this mine?" he shouted, his eyes shining. The joy warmed the house in an instant. Keanu bowed. "I promised, didn't I?" he said, handing over the car. Esther's smile brought spring to Keanu's heart. Come in, Tomas said, bringing coffee from the kitchen. The table was covered with cars Esther had drawn, colored in red marker. "This is the fastest," Esther said, laughing as he drove his Mustang across the table. "Someday you'll drive a real car," Keanu said, winking. Esther's dreams fueled Keanu's hope. "I always talk about that night," Tomas said, handing me the cup, his eyes full of gratitude. "Everyone on the set asks about Esther." Keanu took a sip of his coffee. "We did it together," he said. Esther's smile was a reminder of Kim's hope in her fight against leukemia. "Save others," Kim had said in the hospital room, smiling at Keanu, and that smile was coming back to life in Esther. Esther returned to the living room. "I want to go to he said, driving his Mustang across the table, an image that conjured up in Keanu's mind a memory of watching the waves with Kim. "We'll go in the summer," Keanu said. The word made Esther's eyes shine like a star. A week later, Keanu went with Tommy's and Esther to a snowy park in Budapest. The park was filled with children's laughter. The slides were covered with snow. The trees were under a white blanket. Esther drove his Mustang through the snow, shouting, "Look, Dad, it's racing." His laughter danced with the snowflakes. Tommy's, coffee in hand, watched, a deep peace on his face. He turned to Keanu. "Without you, Esther wouldn't be here," he said, his voice shaky, his eyes seeing hope in the snow-covered park. "Saving someone can change everything." Keanu said. Ballerina's theme of redemption was realized in that moment with Esther's smile. Esther ran up to them. "We'll come again, won't we?" he asked, pressing his red car to his chest. "Of course," said Keanu. The bond burned like a fire in the snowy park. "We?" he asked, pressing his red car to his chest. "Of course," said Keanu. The bond burned like a fire in the snowy park. When Tomas put Esther to bed that evening, the little girl put her Mustang under her pillow. "Keanu is a hero, isn't he?" she whispered. "Yes, honey," Tomas said, smiling. Esther's smile lit up his world. That night in his hotel, Keanu looked at Kim's photo, her smile as she fought leukemia merging with Esther's laughter echoing through the park. Are you mesmerized by this smile? Scroll to the end of the story, because this flame of hope will not be extinguished. Chapter 6. Inherit the Flame. It was snowing in Budapest. The park was silent, only Esther's laughter flew with the snowflakes. Keanu stood in the snow, watching Esther play with her Mustang. The little girl's joy was a miracle born from the cold night of the set. The days when Kim was battling leukemia came to life in Keanu's mind. That moment in the hospital room when Kim said, "Save others," with a smile. The words echoed with Esther's smile. Months passed. Esther had fully recovered. Life in Tomas's house came alive again. Esther's drawings on the window, crackling in the stove. One day the mail arrived, a package from Keanu, a red toy truck and a note to Esther. For hope. "Keanu," Esther ran, shouting, "Dad, look, my friend sent it." The joy filled the house like spring. Tomas had a new beginning with Esther's recovery. Their small apartment was filled with laughter. Every morning Esther lined up his red cars and drew his dreams. When Tomas returned to the set, he looked gratefully at the crew. Marta, Zoltot, Anna, all of them had touched Esther's story. Marta gave Esther a toy garage. "Let the cars have a home," she said, smiling. Zoltot introduced Esther to his own daughters. The three little girls played giggling in the park. The set crew became a family. The tribal spirit of Ballerina lived in their vineyard. Tomas had a new beginning with Esther's recovery. Their small apartment was filled with laughter. Every morning Esther lined up his red cars and drew his dreams. When Tomas returned to the set, he looked gratefully at the crew. Marta, Zolt, Anna, all of them had touched Esther's story. Marta gave Esther a toy garage. "Let the cars have a home," she said, smiling. Zsolt introduced Esther to his own daughters. The three little girls played giggling in the park. The set crew became a family. The tribal spirit of Ballerina lived in their vineyard. Keanu attended a charity event in Los Angeles, a fundraiser for children's hospitals. He took the stage, microphone in hand, and the crowd listened in silence. "Everyone has a story," he said, his voice calm, but there was a wave of emotion. "Mine started in Budapest. One set, one child, one hope. That smile made it all worth it." The crowd applauded, but in Keanu's mind, the moment playing with Esther's truck merged with Kim's smile as she battled leukemia. Anna texted Keanu at the event, "Thanks to you, Ballerina is more than a movie." Keanu smiled. Ballerina's spirit of revenge and redemption had merged with Esther's life. One evening, Keanu was sitting at home. The stars of LA were out the window. A photo of Kim was on the table. A video came to his phone. Esther in the park, driving his truck in the snow, Tomas smiling beside him. "Thank you, our friend," the message said. Keanu's eyes welled up. "I love you too," he whispered. He looked at Kim's photo. "I kept your promise," he said. The flames on the set of Budapest had become a child's smile, a family's hope, and Keanu's journey to redemption. Ballerina's fire hose scene, the moment when Eve fights the flames with water, was inspired by Keanu's quiet gesture to Tomas, an ordinary act of kindness that ignited an extraordinary moment in the film. Ballerina's fire hose scene, the moment when Eve fights the flames with water, was inspired by Keanu's quiet gesture to Tomas, an ordinary act of kindness that ignited an extraordinary moment in the film. Keanu's quiet gesture to Tomas, an ordinary act of kindness that ignited an extraordinary moment in the film. Keanu wrote a letter that night to Kim, the friend who had given him hope years ago when he was battling leukemia. "Esther's smile started with your smile," he wrote. He didn't send the letter, but he carried it in his heart. Marta, Zsolt, Anna, Tomas, every soul in the set was touched by this story. Has the fire of this story touched your heart? You have discovered the legacy of Esther's smile. Now dive into our other stories on the channel, each one filled with extraordinary moments of ordinary people. Like, comment, and continue this journey of hope.